It's time for the Property Podcast, where every week tens of thousands of property investors, new and experienced, join together to get news, knowledge and laughs at our expense. With me, Rob Bence.
And me, Rob Dix. Join us every Thursday morning for your weekly dose of property ideas and motivation. Then head over to our website at thepropertypodcast.com to keep the conversation going. Now though, let's get started.
Hello one and all, and welcome to the Property Podcast. I'm Rob B. With me is Rob D. This is episode 133. I'm pleased to be in Rhymey. No, okay, I'll stop. Good morning, Rob.
Not bad, Rob. I thought you were going somewhere with that, but not bad. Really exciting day today, worthy of a rhyme, because today it's the Property Hub Meetups all across the country. We're going to be out and about meeting people, and in honour of that, this episode is about why you should be networking and how to start. So if you are not planning to come along, we can hopefully twist your arm a little bit. Also, a resource of the week as ever, but let's start, Rob, with a little update on a petition which is not so little anymore.
No, so we mentioned this petition a while back, and to jog your memories, it was a petition against the changes by George Osborne, the future tax changes which are coming in over the next few years. And of course, many landlords see this as unfair. Of course, we would say that. And I do see some justification in some of the taxes. However, there are parts of it which are just unfair. Now, we've covered this in quite a bit of detail already, so I'm not going to go into it now because I'll start crying again. However, if you'd like to listen into the changes in more detail, we do have podcasts on this, more than one. So I'll link to them in the show notes so you can go back and listen to them. However, this petition, when we last mentioned it, was under 10,000. Now, why am I choosing that number? Well, at 10,000, the government needs to respond to the petition and make their position clear. Now, actually, it's gone way through 10,000. It's over 30,000 as we speak. So it's gained momentum. And of course, now the government has responded. So the government's response, well, we'll link to it in the show notes again. To call it weak is probably an understatement. I think really, if anything's going to happen here, we've got to get it through 100,000 petitions. So if you've not signed this yet, first of all, find out what's going on. And if you disagree with it, we'll link to it in the show notes so you can sign it as well. It's literally a couple of clicks and you can register your distaste at what's happening. So it's at 30,000. If it goes through 100,000, then Parliament has to debate the subject, which is also recorded, so you can see what happened and people can attend. So that's obviously a lot more interesting and hopefully will have more impact. So a third of the way there, Rob.
Yeah, and a lot of landlords out there who don't know about the changes that are coming up at all, I imagine. Obviously, if you're listening to a podcast like this, then you are either active in property or you want to be active in property and you're quite switched on. But there are so many people who are just going to have maybe one property that they've had for years and they don't realise because they're not monitoring things every day. And in the budget, this wasn't one of the bigger changes in terms of the media, apart from our section of the media. So they might not realise that that one property that they've had for years is about to become loss-making because of the tax that's going to be imposed on it. So if you know people who are interested in property, but perhaps not as interested as you are to be listening to a podcast called The Property Podcast, then do let them know. And I really want this tax to be reversed because I'm writing a book at the moment and it's a nightmare because I'm having to go, this is happening at the moment. But if you're reading this between this year and this year, then this will be the tax. And if you're reading it after this year, then this will be it. And if you're a higher rate taxpayer, and if you're a basic rate taxpayer, it's making my life really hard. So if George Osborne has no sympathy for the plight of the landlord, maybe he'll have some sympathy for the plight of an author whose life he's making very complicated. So that is the news this week. Our news this week is the fact that the Property Hub meetups are happening tonight. We've got 12 events happening in England and Scotland. Come on, Wales, we need to get you on board and we'll tell you how you can get involved with your own meetups later. So we thought that this would be a good week to talk about why you should be networking and how to start. Because if we're honest, we have played a part in setting these events up, but neither of us are massive networkers. I really am not a fan of networking. I started the Property Geek blog specifically so I could meet people more easily without having to go to networking events. That was the reason why I started the whole thing, which has led to this. So in a way, we're the last people who should be talking to you about why you should be networking and how to start. But in another way, we are good people to be doing it, because we're certainly not going to be telling you to go out there and thrust business cards in everyone's face and go for it. So maybe if you are tentative about it, we'll have some advice that you'll find useful. And also, as we'll talk about later, the way that we put the meetups together guarantees that it's not going to be like your typical networking event. Rob, why don't you kick us off with why we should be networking? Why not just stay at home if we don't like the idea of getting out there and meeting people?
Yeah, stay at home. No, network. Right. Okay, so why you should do it? Well, first of all, I'd start with the relationships that you can build with people. Because the relationships and the connections you make can lead somewhere. They could lead to just general support, which is great because it can be a lonely pursuit property investment. Also, you may find that you get recommendations from people or advice if you've got a particular challenge coming up. People love helping out. So going to a networking event and asking for recommendations or asking for advice, or people may just give it to you anyway, could prove very valuable to the couple of hours you dedicate to it. Also, there's even the possibility, if you go regularly and start building these relationships and they become really strong and you find there's a connection there, potentially joint ventures, projects that you can work on together where your skill sets match. Now, we've done a podcast on joint ventures. We'll link to that in the show notes. So don't necessarily go and rush in. But if you go to networking events and you build these relationships up, who knows where it could lead? Make sure you check that podcast out, which will supplement what we've discussed there. But from support, advice, joint ventures, it could all happen from networking events, and it does. Just as important, though, is staying on top of new trends, legislation, or strategies. Things are moving all the time in the property world. If you're sitting at home, not really getting involved, then you could miss it. Hopefully, you hear about it on things like the Property Podcast, but we might miss it. So going to networking events and finding out about changes in the law, or new strategies that are making property investment more effective, or new trends where there's opportunity to invest. That can all happen in networking events. And of course, you can get inspired and motivated by other people's successes there and challenges and people overcoming those challenges. So it's not a room of people bragging how well they've done, but talking about the things that have gone well, the things that haven't gone so well, how they dealt with that can be really, really inspiring, especially if you're talking to someone who's a little bit further on than yourself. So as you can see, there are multiple reasons why you should be networking. Is there any more, Rob?
Yeah, well, they are really great benefits from networking, but there are others as well, which I think are perhaps harder to kind of put a value on, but are valuable all the same. And they are the social benefits. Much as I've just said that I don't enjoy networking events or haven't historically enjoyed networking events, that doesn't mean that I'm antisocial. I really like getting out and meeting people. And I think that's something that these events are great for. They're great to just realize that you're not alone or mad. And I think this is a situation that a lot of people find themselves in when they discover property. And it happens in other things as well. You'll somehow come across the idea of property or the idea of entrepreneurship or whatever it is, doing something a little bit different from everyone else. And your colleagues or the people you go to the pub with on a Friday night, you maybe try to talk to them about it and they just don't get it at all. And it's really hard to do something which is different from what everyone else is without having any reinforcement apart from the book or the podcast or whatever it was that triggered it in the first place. So getting out there and realizing that it's not just you're not alone. There are other people doing this. There are people being really successful by doing this is really helpful. And related to that, just making friends. I've made really, really good friends from property, which is not something that I expected. I didn't get into it for the social aspect. I got into it to make money. I should say to house wonderful people, but I didn't. I got into it to make money. But the real benefit has been the people that I've met who I never would have come into contact with otherwise, because in all other respects, they're in completely different walks of life, but we have property in common. So I don't think that those benefits of networking should be ignored. And it kind of links into as well, I think, Rob, when we start talking about the do's and the don'ts of how to network, if you approach it from the position of, well, I want to go in there and make friends and connections rather than I want to get X concrete thing out of it, you can have a better experience and a more successful experience as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's look at some of the things that you should be doing then when you go to a networking event. Sounds obvious, but get involved. I'll admit it. When I started out in business, which feels like a long time ago now, I used to go to networking events, and those that you didn't force you to talk to people, I'd just go and hide in a corner. I knew I should be there, but I didn't want to be there, and I used to just be a wimp and hide in a corner. Now, some meetups are intimidating. The Property Hub Meetups are not. That's important to understand. But when you're there, friendly or not friendly, even if it's a not friendly meetup and say it's a non-Property Hub meetup, still do your best to get involved, because there's other people who are going to be there in exactly the same position as you. They're nervous, it makes them uncomfortable. So just making that effort to say, hi, what brings you here tonight? Just a few conversational starters will do wonders for your experience. Now, as I said, the Property Hub meetups, you don't need to worry because they are very friendly. But this is just networking advice in general. And then once you start those conversations, or you may get involved in a group and invite people in to discuss a topic you're interested in or they're interested in, add value to the conversation. It's great to be agreeable and nice and pleasant, but if you can offer value and give back, then do so, because everyone will really appreciate it. So make sure you offer value. And then a tactic that so many people fall down on when it comes to networking events is you can spend a good hour, 2 hours, maybe longer, get to know people in a room, get on like a house on fire, and then not follow up. If you do exchange business cards, which I'm not a business card person, but some people are, let's just say you exchange details, basic details, whatever it may be, follow up on it. You don't need to write them a long letter about how amazing their company was that evening, but just a one-line email or just a tweet or whatever your choice of communication is, just to say, hey, great to meet you, let's keep in touch. That alone will set you apart to most networkers, believe it or not.
Yeah, it's true. The bar is pretty low. Following up is important, and also on the Property Hub forum there's a special area for each event, so you can pop onto there afterwards, and if you didn't get someone's contact details you can always find them on there, so make it easy to follow up, so make sure that you do it. Another kind of networking where I think a lot of people fall down, and I used to as well, is to talk honestly about your situation. So it's often the case that people feel the need to project the impression that everything's going brilliantly, everything's going really well, and they're on top of things and they know exactly what they need to be doing. That's what I used to do as well. When I was just talking to people in general, even friends, I'd just be like, yeah, everything's great, doing brilliantly. And sometimes it is, but sometimes it isn't. And it's never the case that everything in your life is going brilliantly all at the same time. So if you talk honestly about your situation, for a start, people are going to like you more, and it's going to be interesting because it's a bit different, but it also means that you'll be able to actually get advice. Because if you're just saying that, oh yeah, everything's great, I'm smashing it, then no one's really going to have much to add to that. But if you're honest, not moaning, but if you're honest about the challenges that you're having, then that's quite attractive. And it means that it's going to open the door for someone to say, oh, well, have you thought about this? Or do you know so-and-so? So that's a change that I made a couple of years ago just in my life in general. And it's made a big difference to the quality of conversations that I've had. Because if you feel like you don't have to put up a front anymore, it means that the person who you're speaking to similarly feels like they don't have to do that, which means that you can just have a far better conversation. So talk honestly about your situation. Don't feel like you need to be the guy who goes in there and has everything sorted and is on top of the game if you don't feel like you are at that particular moment. And related to that, do ask for advice. Don't be the guy who just peppers everyone with the same question. This is something that you see sometimes. Someone who's got a bee in their bonnet about a particular thing. They've gone down there with the intention of getting this particular thing out of the event, and they'll go around asking everyone that same question. Don't do that, but don't be afraid to ask for advice. We've said it before, but people in property are very happy to share. So if you're talking to someone and you feel like there's something where they could help you out because of their area of expertise, don't be afraid to ask. People are very generous, and you'll probably find that they will be far more helpful than you'd ever expected. So really, I think you could sum all this up as being open to it, like getting involved, following up, being honest, asking for advice, just really committing to go in there, be yourself, and get the most out of it.
So we've given you plenty of things you should be doing in networking, but of course there's things that you should never do. And I'm sure we're preaching to the converted here. So you can pass this advice on to those who you may meet in the future, or put them onto the podcast. But definitely things you should not be doing is just talking at people non-stop. So ignoring what they have to say, talking about your agenda, your situations, your background, and just bulldozing a conversation of the other individual or the group. Get involved. It's a two-way thing, and you get more from it that way. I know, as I say, not really for podcast listeners, this one, but it's a general advice. But this one does happen, and I see it at every networking event. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen that much at the Property Hub meetups I've been to. Don't be the business card king. So what does that mean? It works two ways. Either somebody starts a conversation and within 10 seconds they're asking for your business card, or you've barely said hello and they're thrusting their business card into your face. You don't know whether you've got anything in common yet, whether there's any connection, and you obviously feel obliged to put that business card in your pocket. I have to say that unless I've made a connection with that person, that some sort of deeper relationship, then those business cards don't go much further than the bin, unfortunately, or the recycling bin at least. Don't be that person. And obviously, if that person does give you a business card, take it politely, but please make sure it goes in recycling after if you don't build that connection.
And also don't do what we've both already admitted that we did, which is hide away and be scared. If you're going to go, you might as well commit to make the most of it. And as we've already said, the Property Hub events, because we're very sensitive to this, because that's what we were like, we've deliberately structured them in a way that makes them as unintimidating as possible. But it is still intimidating to walk into a room of people you don't know. No getting away from that. But don't hide away. Don't be terrified. A few weeks ago, we had an episode about questions to ask property investors, so we'll link to that in the show notes. If all you do is memorize a couple of those and just walk in there so you've got kind of an opening line to break the ice. So go in, say hello, ask a question, and you're away. That person will introduce you to another person, and before you know it, 2 hours have flown by and you've made some really good connections. It all starts, though, with actually going in there and committing to give it your best. So just get over that initial leap, walk into the room, and within 5 minutes, you'll wonder why you were ever scared in the first place.
Okay, so what are your next steps? Now, let's be honest here. We've promoted the meetups a little. Now, what's the cost? If we're talking up this great event and networking opportunity and all these benefits, what's it going to cost you? Well, here's the good news. It's completely free. So all the resources are free. Everything that we've done in the background, we're giving up time, staff hours, it's free. The meetup leaders, they're giving their time for free. So why would you not take advantage of this amazing opportunity? It's not like the first one's free and then you're going to have to sign up for something more expensive afterwards. It's free. Did I mention it was free, Rob? So what should you do if you want to join us? Well, first of all, you need to know if the venues are near you. So on October 1st, this evening, as this goes out, so we have multiple meetups going on in different venues in different places. Last night was Dubai. So Dubai, if you went to that meetup, I hope you had a great time. But tonight, we've got multiple meetups happening in the UK. So we have Glasgow, Liverpool, Manchester, Sheffield, Nottingham/Derby, Birmingham, St Albans, London North, London South Bank, Epsom, Brighton. And then we have Hong Kong happening next week. So there's loads happening. And then in November, all of those we just mentioned, plus we'll have Leeds. So there's loads going on. And this is absolutely fantastic. And a big thank you to all the meetup leaders who are getting behind this.
Yeah, huge thank you. Because while we've kind of set things in motion, it's them that's actually making this happening. And we have a monthly call with the leaders of the meetups. And from speaking to them, we know how dedicated they are and how super friendly and supportive they are. So they are really setting the tone for what these events are going to be like. So go to thepropertyhub.net/meetups. You'll find there that there is a link to book each event. It's completely free, but you do need to book a place just so the event organizers know how many people to expect. So that's really, really easy to do from thepropertyhub.net/meetups. If there is not an event near you and you're interested in starting one, let us know. Either email hello@thepropertyhub.net or contact us via any channel that you like, and we will put you in touch with Abby, who coordinates everything at our end, and she'll talk you through the process of starting up your own Property Hub meetup. So, well, we've got about 12 happening in October. We've got at least one more happening in November, probably more, but we're always looking for more. We want to cover the whole of the UK. So wherever you find yourself on the first Thursday of any given month, you're able to go along and meet other friendly investors. That's our vision for this whole thing. So if you'd like to be a part of that, and there are lots of benefits to being a leader as well, then please do get in touch and let us know.
Now, Rob, we of course not setting this up and not going. So tonight, I'll be at the London North meetup, which is in the King's Cross area. So those who attended our big meetup, our national one last time, It's in the same venue. So go to thepropertyhub.net/meetups for the exact details. And Rob, you're heading north and you're off to Manchester.
Yep, I'm off to Manchester to a meetup led by Mark Morris, big friend of the show. He's contributed several resources of the week in the past. So I'm really looking forward to catching up with him and everyone else in Manchester tonight.
Super. So if you're at the London King's Cross meetup or you're in Manchester, say hi. But as Rob said, make sure you get your ticket and go to propertyhub.net/meetups. Okay, so resource of the week time. Now, Rob, I mentioned this one and I went into a bit of detail and you were surprised at actually how much is packed into this resource, and it's called Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I've been a member of Amazon Prime for a long time. It's something like £70 for the year. I can't quite remember, but you get a free next day delivery. And given the amount of stuff that I order from Amazon, that is a hell of a good deal. Now, I knew that you got some kind of online streaming video thing bundled in, but that's something I hadn't looked at for a long time. And then you also told me this morning that you get music thrown in as well. So it seems like it covers a lot more than I first thought.
It does. So I had Spotify, which was $9.99 a month. I've got Netflix, which is about $5.99 a month. Amazon Prime is £6.50 a month. And I was already a member as well because I need the fast delivery. I'm like you, Rob. I think we're single-handedly boosting the share price month in, month out. I realised that at £6.50, I'm getting a service that basically rolls all that in. Plus, there's a library for Kindle owners where you can just go in and get thousands and thousands of titles for free if you're a member as well. So I've not cancelled my Netflix because I do love Netflix and there's some great programs on there that you don't get on Amazon Prime. But I have cancelled my Spotify because I thought that was overkill. For £6.50, if you haven't got Netflix and you haven't got a music streaming service yet, and you're thinking about getting one, then definitely the most cost-effective way of going about it is Amazon Prime. Although I've talked about the share price, we don't have any shares, and this isn't affiliate linked. It's just a service we both use, and we thought, you know what, we should mention it.
And while we're giving Amazon free publicity that I'm sure it doesn't need, what about the 1 hour delivery in London as well? You've taken advantage of that, haven't you? I haven't done yet.
Yeah, it's absolutely bonkers. So if you're an Amazon Prime member, you can get a delivery to your home or office if you live in London or Birmingham in 1 hour. I don't know how they do this. And the stock is a bit limited. It's not the full Amazon catalogue that you can order. However, it's just absolutely bonkers that they can do this at all. So they have an app. You can download it on your phone. You can order in an hour. I think if you want it in an hour, there's a small charge on top of your normal $6.50 a month. But if you're patient and you can wait 2 hours, it's free. So I don't know how they do it. Absolutely bonkers. As you said, Rob, Amazon doesn't really need much more publicity, but sometimes you deserve it. And I think the service they're offering for $6.50 a month is blooming good.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It blows my mind that it's even possible. And it worries me that I don't even want to use the 1 hour service because I know that once I do, the idea of having it turn up the next morning for free is just going to be a ridiculously long time to wait. So I just don't want to realign my expectations in that way. But yeah, worth checking out. All linked in the show notes at thepropertyhub.net/networking. And speaking of networking and nice friendly people, a nice friendly person has left us a review.
They have. So thank you to Saxon Slouch. Sorry, Robs, it's taken me listening to over 100 podcasts to leave a review, but we're here now. Such sound advice is rare and this is impartial. It's almost too good to be true. To be honest, at first I thought I was being drawn into a cult. You guys are so evangelical. Since listening to your podcast, though, I've purchased and managed one buy-to-let, and I've just agreed to purchase a second one. Everyone I spoke to thinks it's the way to go, but few people actually do it. Your podcast was a major factor in helping me take action, and I'm so glad I did it. Keep up the great work, BR. We say it every time we get a review like this, but I'll say it again, bloomin' love him, because it's absolutely great that people take action. Now, we didn't force Saxon Slouch or BR, as they've left their initials at the end, to take action. They've done it off their own back. But the fact that we may have just given a tiny bit of a nudge warms our hearts, doesn't it, Rob?
It does. It's absolutely brilliant. I think they put their finger on it as well. Lots of people kind of know that it's the way to go, but very few people actually do it. So all credit to the people who actually take action. Nothing to do with us. Plenty of people listen and don't take action. It's all about the individual who makes that happen. So absolutely brilliant. Talking about making things happen, if you want to meet people tonight, if you're listening on the day this goes out, which of course you should be doing every week anyway, go to thepropertyhub.net/meetups and the show notes for today's episode with all the links to previous episodes that we've talked about, as well as the link to that petition and the government response are at thepropertyhub.net/networking.
So if you're in the King's Cross area or Manchester, come and say hi. If you're in any of the other areas we've mentioned, make sure you get along if you can. We'll be touring around the different groups over the coming months, so you'll see us at different events popping up, and we'll let you know each month where we're going to be. So for those people who attended tonight, hi, look forward to seeing you later. And for those who can't make it, make sure you get along next time. But we'll be back next week with another podcast. Cheers, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Property Podcast. Make sure you join our mailing list at thepropertypodcast.com.
And remember, we love 5-star reviews. Rob even loves them more than air miles.